This is the second part of my PowerPoint on autism because there's so much information that I wanted to include this as well. So this part is on Asperger syndrome, which is no longer officially called Asperger syndrome, but it became so common for people to talk about kids with Asperger's that I'm including it here in this PowerPoint. So according to the DSM, the Statistical and Diagnostic Manual, no longer we talk about Asperger syndrome, but we do have plenty of children who really fit into this category, so it's very common to say that. So individuals with Asperger's disorder may display some or all of the following. They might have difficulty forming appropriate relationships with peers. They might lack spontaneous sharing of interests and achievements. They might have difficulty reading social clues and social situations. They might have difficulty with social reciprocity, and they might have uneven motor skill development. Some of the children or people with Asperger's experience nonverbal difficulties. They fail to convey or comprehend gestures, mime, facial expressions, body posture, or verbal intonation. They fail to read body language and facial expressions, for example, and their gestures might be stiff or stilted or too dramatic or exaggerated. Also very common are verbal difficulties. There might be a delay in the development of language. They might have comprehension difficulties. They might be very literal. They might have echolalia, so repetition of the last sentence and last word. They also use language repetitively, and they have language that is not used for communication, but it's often used to meet their needs, such as make statements or ask questions, to put structure in the word, not to be surprised by questions. They often talk at others and not with. I have a fun story when a student was walking in the hallway and their classmates met him and they said, "Hey, what's up?" And he looked up on the ceiling to see what is up there. So that's the literalness of understanding language. Here is a typical student with Asperger's. Many high-functioning students have Asperger's syndrome, a disorder that includes trouble with social skills, but no delays in language, vocabulary, reading, or writing. People are often, or kids are often incredibly word smart, and they have extensive knowledge about specific interests, and they do well on tests. However, they often avoid traditional homework and have trouble making eye contact in class. Meet Peter, a little boy with Asperger's. He knows everything there is to know about dinosaurs and reptiles. He can talk about them for hours, but when he talks, he does not look at the listener. It's not surprising that he has no friends. In fact, the other students in class avoid him and call him weird. Peter is quite smart. He gets 100 on every test he takes, as long as it is multiple choice. However, no one can get him to do homework. Children with Asperger's syndrome might have impaired social imagination and play. They might not be able to play with objects or toys using their imagination. They might be very resistant to change, and they prefer sameness and predictability. Therefore, they often ask questions first because they predict what the answer is going to be. They like ritualistic behaviors. They have some interests that some people call obsessive interests, some people call special or unique interests. Um, and we can use those interests to work with them in math and literacy and other areas in school. They might not be able to understand abstract concepts, but as they get older, this all comes in place for them and it develops. They might also lack empathy, some of them, but some of them are quite empathetic on the other hand. Um, as I said, many students and people and children with Asperger's have special interest. It would be one or two areas that they know everything about, and it might interfere with acquisition of other skills. But however, we can also use this special interest to teach them new skills. So we want to avoid uh, this resulting in adherence to routines that are not functional, difficulty with changes in routines, preoccupation with parts of objects. But as I said, this can be also used to build knowledge on other subjects and skills in other areas. Um, Here's another quote, or a few quotes from Alan Arnold's book, but a student might think in 30 seconds when he meets a teacher in the hallway greeting him. Just try to imagine all of that. Someone is coming toward me. I have no idea who it is. I don't know if I have ever seen him before. I can't remember faces at all. I touch the sides of the walk and look down quickly. This other person says, "Hello, Sam. How are you doing today?" How does he know my name? Who is he? I have a headache. Should I tell him that? He asked how I was doing. Does he want to know that I'm on my way to the bathroom but not sure where it is? I think I have to go down this hall until the wall stops, so I better feel it in my hand so I know when it stops. But will I have time to get there? If I stop and find out who this person is, I might not make it. If I look at the floor, he might think I didn't hear him. If I answer him, I might have to talk a lot. Then I will really have to go to the bathroom. I don't want to have an accident here in the hall. What if this person is a stranger? What if he's my PE teacher? It sounds like he might be, but I'm not sure. Will he be mad at me if it is him? Is it rude to ask? I can't be sure. So just imagine that you picture this, or these thoughts come through your head in about 30 seconds when someone just greets you in the hallway because you have difficulty remembering faces and voices. However, there are some strengths of people with Asperger syndrome. They have very strong visual skills. They are able to learn and follow routines. They have very focused attention related to their special interests. They are honest. They are very high cognitively. Their grammar and vocabulary seems to be very excellent. They have good rote memory. They absorb facts easily, and they are interested in social work, however unconventional that is. And they also have special talents. They make very good workers who work on individual projects and not in a group of people later in life. Stephen Shore came with a comparison between strengths and challenges of people with autism. And for every strength, if you notice, there is a challenge. And you will often find examples in people to prove the opposite. So some people talk about attention to detail, which would be a strength, versus some other people call it grasping the big picture, or difficulty grasping the big picture. People with Asperger's or autism are often highly skilled in a particular area, versus some people talk about that they have uneven set of skills. Their strength is to be able to study deeply, resulting in encyclopedic knowledge on areas of interest, versus some people say that people with autism have difficulty in developing motivation to study areas not of interest. People with autism tend to be logical, which is helpful in decision making where emotions may interfere. However, some people say that they have a difficulty perceiving emotional states of others. They might be less concerned for what others may think of them, which can be a strength and a challenge. And versus some people are perceiving unwritten rules of social interaction, but they can learn these rules through direct instruction and social narratives. So, and um, such as power cards. Another strength is to be often very verbal um, and give detailed descriptions that might be useful in providing directions to lost persons, for example. Versus some people are perceived as having sensory integration problems where input might be registered unevenly, distorted, and they might have difficulty in screening out background noise. Some people appreciate direct communication versus some people talk about honesty, which is bad. Some people talk about loyalty versus generalization of skills and concepts. Another strength is honesty, and their challenge might be difficulty expressing empathy in ways that others expect to understand. A strength might be to be non-judgmental and be able to listen in a non-judgmental way, versus a challenge might be executive functioning, resulting in difficulties planning long-term tasks. Here are two links for that will get you to two videos on children and teenagers with Asperger's. So please watch those. The first one is titled Positives About Being an Aspie, and the second one is called Being a Person with Asperger's Syndrome. Now, is autism caused genetically? Yes, it is generally accepted that autism might be caused by genes and several genes, and also by brain abnormalities. Some neuroimaging research has showed that there are abnormalities in the brain. It's also widely accepted that autism may be associated with a genetic event, but not a single gene or a group of genes account for all autism cases. It is getting clear that there might be several autism genes, potentially representing different profiles of autism, and it is also likely that autism is not caused by one single factor. Um, and there is evidence that many genes may interact to cause autism. So another new theory is that individuals may be predisposed to autism and environmental factors, such as some chemicals, may influence the development of autism. If you notice, there are some parents who are very focused on one area, such as mathematicians and musicians and accountants, and very often their children turn to have Asperger's syndrome, as if it was just too much for their brain to have all these skills focused on one area of interest, and their brain just that doesn't develop typically, so they are lacking some skills on one hand, while they are really good at other skills on the other. I would like you to read Mark Haddon's book called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It is about a boy with Asperger's, and it is a great insightful story on how people with Asperger's syndrome perceive the world. To conclude, autistic children don't deserve to be molded into someone they are not. They deserve to learn and grow and feel comfortable about themselves. Their worlds can expand to include new experience, and they become teachers, opening others to their viewpoints. For more information, please go to these websites. Autism Speaks, National Institute of Neurological Disorders, Autism Society, Autism Research Institute, or National Autism Association. And enjoy, find out more and more and more, because our knowledge on autism is getting stronger every day.